Okay, DJ Veronica, I think it's 6:05 on the button. So we're going to get started. Thank you all for coming out tonight. I think we have over 100 folks in this webinar right now. So if you are not here to learn about our comprehensive plan update, Philadelphia 2050, and a new engagement opportunity to join as a community partner, congratulations. You can go back to dinner or proceed with your evening. Thanks to everyone else who has joined us to learn about this exciting new initiative. My name is Donna Carney, and I am the director of the Citizens Planning Institute. And next slide, please. Before I share our agenda for this session, we have a few instructions for this Zoom format tonight. This session is being recorded, and all of you who registered will receive a link to the recording by email. The recording will also be posted on the Opportunity website, which many of you have hopefully visited. We are also using a webinar format tonight, so we ask you to type any questions using the Q&A feature. And if you're having technical difficulties, type in the chat function and to message the meeting host. If we do not get to your question tonight, we will do our best to follow up after the session. You should have received a link to the FAQs, or frequently asked questions, in your reminder email. We will also send that link after this webinar. Next slide, please. If you would like to enable the closed captions function, go to the toolbar at the bottom of your screen and select More, and that should be a little circle with 3 dots in it. If in the menu that pops up, select Captions, and then Show Captions button will appear in the toolbar where you can select that. You can also go to the little caret on the right to make more detailed selections. Next slide, please. To submit a question and see what other questions are coming up for folks, go to the Q&A button at the bottom of your toolbar of the meeting window. You can click on All Questions or just My Questions as a reminder to see what questions you've entered. Click on the thumbs up icon. You can see that little arrow there, up icon, below a question to upvote. And that just indicates there's more than one person has an interest in that question, or maybe it duplicates your question. Submit a new question by typing in the question box. Do try not to duplicate questions that are already out there. Okay, next slide. So what are we going to talk about tonight? We're going to assume that not everyone here knows who we are and why we're updating a comprehensive plan. So we're going to spend a little time explaining what this project is all about. Then we're going to give you a thorough overview of this community partner opportunity. We'll close with answering your questions. We'll give you another reminder at that time on using the Q&A function. To respect everyone's time, we will prioritize questions that we get about the community partner opportunity and the comprehensive planning process. For other questions, please email Phila2050 at phila.gov. That's PHILA2050 at phila.gov. And we'll get back to you. And don't worry, we'll have that address at the end of the presentation tonight. Next slide, please. Introduction. So I've just introduced myself. Later on, you're going to hear from Veronica and Marissa, both members of the CPI team, and they will introduce themselves when they do their sections. CPI lives in the Philadelphia City Planning Commission, and we work with the comprehensive planning team on this project. The larger city department is called the Department of Planning and Development. Next slide. Here you see a screenshot from our phila.gov website where you can find out more about what we do. But for tonight, the main thing we want to emphasize is that the Planning Commission is mandated by city charter to maintain a comprehensive plan, which guides the physical plan, development plan for the city. The Planning Commission is a recommending body only. We rely on other city agencies who have budgets and other stakeholders to implement the plan. Next slide. You may have heard of Philadelphia 2035. I know you're at home and we can't see you, but just raise your hand if you know about Philadelphia 2035. Phila 2035 is the city's current comprehensive plan, which was begun in 2010. And with these types of plans having a 25-year timeline, that was reflected in the name, 2035. Comprehensive plans are typically updated every 10 years. So a lot has happened in the last 10 plus years. So we are updating the plan for the next 25 years, hence the name Philadelphia 2050. A comprehensive plan is an official statement of goals, recommendations, and policies used to guide the physical development of the city as adopted by the Planning Commission. Recommendations in the plan guide things like zoning and informs capital budget spending by other city agencies who can implement projects, and it helps make the case for specific project funding. Next slide. This plan must meet the changing social and economic conditions in Philadelphia and the world. Updating the plan helps us ensure that the plan reflects what Philadelphians want today, and that includes addressing pressing issues like poverty, public safety, and education. It also helps us stay competitive for funding to complete projects recommended in the plan. When stakeholders go after project funding, they can point to specific recommendations or policies in the plan that support that project. And importantly, we are centering equity in the planning process and will be doing more in-depth engagement. The community partner model is one important part of that bigger engagement strategy. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Veronica to share a little bit about the plan update process.
Thank you, Donna. Hi, everybody. My name is Veronica Ayala. If I haven't gotten the chance to meet you, I serve as program manager for the Citizens Planning Institute. And so before we get into the specifics of this opportunity, we wanted to address what planning together means to us, right? And we're putting that as kind of the tagline of our plan. To get started in creating this engagement strategy, we formed a steering committee of residents who applied through an open call. And together with that steering committee, we've outlined some principles. And so we're here to say we're not perfect. Obviously, we're a government agency. We deal with a lot of bureaucracy, but this is what we're striving for. We want to acknowledge and address the legacies of inequity that have been in city planning and create spaces for critical discussion, learning about power dynamics, privilege, and systemic oppression within our field. We want to acknowledge power and generate accountability. We want to address new policy areas that Philadelphia 2035 did not address. And we want to involve those who have been left out historically from planning discussions and decisions. And so we're promoting and we are really trying to collaborate and co-create solutions with communities, not from a top-down approach. And this is why we're calling for community partners. And we want to provide also communities with tools to actually participate. And so centering community voices and expertise and avoiding a lot of paternalistic and controlling tendencies that government has been known for. And so with that, let's talk a little bit about the project timeline. On this slide, you can see that the general timeline for the project, obviously it's always up for adjustment as things happened. Hello, COVID. So currently we are in phase 0 or the pre-engagement phase as if you will. We are just starting to get the word out with the main focus right now being on having community partners. And again, this application closes on May 30th. In phase 1, we'll be launching an online engagement hub as well as physical hubs or stations across the city. We'll be showing up at events, existing meetings, and hope to do also focus groups with priority audiences that might not be represented through the community partner model. CPI will be hosting so the Citizens Planning Institute will be hosting a special 6-week course for those delegates of the community partner organizations. And we're calling this entire phase 1 phase visioning because we'll be asking folks to think about, kind of big picture visions for the city. Well, we're also going to be seeing, what specific needs arise as we do engagement. In November, we hope to start an analysis of all this data collected and work with community partners in analyzing the findings. So we're not going to be interpreting the data by ourselves. We hope to do that in collaboration with community partners. Based on the things that we learned from this visioning phase, we'll design a survey and other materials to come back to communities in phase 2. So for phase 2, we'll be following up with questions based on what we learned. So getting a little bit more specific about the things that we're learning, and if we have sort of, follow-up questions. We might also be doing here more focus groups with groups that we haven't reached. So let's say there's a particular stakeholder group that has a specific expertise or is representative of an industry that we should be talking to, whatever gaps in engagement we see so far in phase 2, we'll be trying to reach those that we hadn't in phase 1. And then we'll be doing another round of flyering and invite the public to attend workshops in their planning districts designed to engage residents in writing and refining specific recommendations. And so during the third and final phase, we will be starting open house public meetings in each district plan to ensure that residents are aware of the contents of the draft plan and have a way to express support or recommend changes. These workshops will be designed to engage residents in the actual writing and refining of specific recommendations in district plans. So our goal here is for the plan to be socialized way before it is sent to be adopted so that all parties know what's in it, feel comfortable with it before it goes to approval and is adopted. So hopefully that gives you a better sense of the timeline of the project. And I'll talk a little bit more about our engagement strategy. So given the magnitude of this project, it does not fall we understand how big of a deal this project is and how big the plan is. And so we are looking to have a strategy that provides multiple engagement opportunities with a variety of formats. And so this includes a general survey for folks that, are comfortable doing a survey. We'll have that, but we'll also employ engagement stations and tabling and attending of community events. So whether there's a festival in your community that is well attended and you want us to, show up and table, we will do that. And we'll also be doing neighborhood tours. We've heard from our steering committee, this is a way to really get to know what's happening on the ground. And so we'll also employ this as a strategy. And finally, we'll have workshops as well. So we are aware that, not every format will catch everybody. And so that's why we're trying to provide as many different avenues and formats so that if you are not into going to the 6 p.m. community meeting, like many of you are here tonight, don't worry, we'll catch you at a pop-up at the grocery store. And so that's kind of what we have in store here. We are also very being intentional about establishing data sharing agreements with sister agencies, sister government agencies to help reduce engagement fatigue. We don't want to be asking the same questions that another agency is asking. And so we're trying to be proactive in that. So that's something to look forward to. So this is more of the staff-led engagement. So I've described those modalities, and what we're going to be speaking to more about today is this community partner-led engagement. So we'll have staff-led opportunities and community partner opportunities. And so they will be provided the tools to be able to engage their communities and these equity-based priorities that we outlined in the call. And they will also be given the chance to, learn from other community partners as we go about this. So with that, I'm going to pass it along to my colleague, Marissa Wilson, who will give you more specifics on this opportunity.
Thank you, Veronica. Now, for the moment many of you have been waiting for, more information about the community partner opportunity. So in addition to all of this amazing engagement work that Veronica just outlined that the Planning Commission will be leading ourselves, we will also be partnering with 8 community-based organizations to support those community organizations in doing their own community engagement for this comprehensive plan update. So community groups can apply for this partnership for a period lasting either 9 months, starting August 25th and running through April 2026, or an 18-month partnership starting in that same August, running to January 2027. Over the next few slides, I'm going to cover what exactly community partners will do at these different partnership levels and what funding levels they will receive. So before we start that, why community partnership in the first place? Veronica got into this a little bit already, but these are our aims with our community partnership. We hope to ensure that the comprehensive plan update addresses community needs and visions by creating plan recommendations and goals with communities. We hope to provide communities with tools and information needed to participate in and guide the planning process. We'll create opportunities for community connection and conversation to build energy and momentum for community initiatives. We'll be addressing legacies of inequality by resourcing and collaborating with communities historically left out of planning discussions and decisions through this community partnership specifically. We hope to increase transparency and accountability in the comprehensive planning process. And we hope to work with communities to understand their visions and needs and identify ways the Planning Commission can address them. So what will community partners actually be doing? Community partners will lead engagement with their community in a number of ways. If we remember back to the engagement phases that Veronica shared earlier in the presentation, the community partners will be following these phases of engagement as well. Both 9-month and 18-month community partners will attend a comprehensive plan-specific Citizens Planning Institute course, like Veronica mentioned. They'll engage their community in story sharing and visioning. They'll analyze information from those engagements, and they're going to share the learnings from those engagements with their community. 18-month partners will continue into phase 2 and phase 3, engaging communities on the specific topics based on what they've learned from previous engagements. They'll share information with Planning Commission staff in a tour of their communities. In phase 3, they'll review the draft plan and recommendations and collect feedback from their community to share back with the Planning Commission to make sure that that feedback is integrated into the final plan. So to go into that a little bit deeper, we do not expect our community partners, next slide, Veronica. We do not expect our community partners to be experts in comprehensive planning or city planning. That's what we're for. You don't need to be an expert to be a community partner. Selected community partners will designate 2 of their members or staff to attend a 6-week course to learn about the comprehensive plan and how it is used. They'll also learn and share with each other best practices for community engagement and outreach, as well as research skills to aid them in their engagement work. This course will consist of weekly 3-hour classes. They will be held on Thursday evenings in person in Center City. If attending in person is a hardship or not possible for your group or members of your group, please let us know by emailing Phialdelphia2050@phila.gov, that email that Donna gave earlier, so we can discuss possible accommodations. If you can't attend one of the classes and you're a designee from a selected community partner group, it's not over, it's fine. The classes are designed to be very interactive, but if someone has to miss a class, we will be recording them so that they can be viewed after the fact. This is part of why we're asking for community partners to send 2 participants to the course. So if one person has to miss, the other can attend and participate in the discussion and activities and share that information back with their partner after the fact. Next slide. After the Citizens Planning Institute class, community partners will start their engagement. This first engagement phase is really focused on storytelling and visioning. It's designed to start big, give communities the opportunity to connect and find common values. We invite applicants to consider using or adapting the Philly Folklore Project story sharing tactic for this engagement phase. Based on guidance from our steering committee members, the Planning Commission contracted Philly Folklore Project to create this engagement tactic. This tactic is aimed at building community and deeper understanding through story sharing within the community in the absence of city staff. After sharing stories, participants will fill out vision cards about their vision for the future of their neighborhood in Philadelphia. Community partners will share just the vision cards with the Planning Commission. Together, community partners and planning staff will work to identify common themes in the vision cards and share what those themes mean in the context of the specific community, making sure that we know truly what those visions mean and we're not making assumptions as a planning commission. In the next phase, our 18-month partners will continue to phase 2 of engagement. In this phase, we will look at the themes that were identified in the vision cards and work with planning, and community partners will work with planning staff to decide what questions and topics they'd like to discuss more deeply with their community and how they would like to do that engagement. There are a lot of ways partners could do the engagement. We ask that applicants have some ideas of how they might want to do this engagement when they apply, but we'll work with them to update the plan after the first round of engagement and through the community or the Citizens Planning Institute course. If you're not really sure where to start, you're new to engagement or you're not sure if you've done this before, we recommend checking out Citizen Planning Institute's Engage with Your Community resource on the Institute's website. We will be linking, we'll be sharing this in an email after this session, and you can also find the resource linked in the application. Community partners will share back what they're learning with planning staff in a report after these engagement phases. They'll also host staff on a walking tour of important places in the community so that they can better help staff understand life in the community and the community's vision for the future. Planning staff will also be hosting workshops in this phase that will be open to the entire public to share back everything that we've learned, both through our community partners and through our own led engagement. In these sessions, the public will work together to hear what has been shared and what has been determined, and decide on ways to move the findings into recommendations that could be included into the plan update. Community partners are asked to help us make sure that their community is aware of these meetings and represented at those meetings so that we can make sure that their community is part of the conversation as we move into further phases of the plan and developing the recommendations. In the next phase, and the final phase, we'll be reviewing the draft plan. So community partners are responsible for supporting their community in looking through the draft plan, reading the recommendations, reading the goals, making sure they understand what it means, and helping their community give input on what they think, whether the plan represents what they said and represents the vision that they shared and in the ways that they would like to see it actualized. Partners will give that feedback back to the Planning Commission, and they'll also help the Planning Commission host community workshops in their, they will help promote the Planning Commission's workshops and make sure that their community members can attend and share as well. Once the feedback is collected and incorporated, the plan will be finalized by the city, and the city will start working on implementation. So some information about funding and funding dispersal. 9-month partners will be given $15,000 at the start of the partnership period to complete their engagement. Up to $2,500 in addition is available for each community partner for translation or interpretation and family care support for the events that they'll be hosting or the engagements that they'll be hosting. That $2,500 is available on a reimbursement basis, whereas the $15,000 will be given upfront. 18-month partners will also receive $15,000 at the start of the partnership in August 2025. And then as long as they are in good standing, they are, they've given all of the reporting that they are required to as part of this agreement, they will receive the second half of that funding, another $15,000 in April 2026 to continue their work. These partners also will receive up to, or be able to reimburse for up to $5,000 for translation, interpretation, and family care support to lower the barriers for their community to be able to attend their events or give input. I want to note that we say family care support, but the application says child care support, thanks to an ask that came from a prospective community partner or an applicant. We were asked to expand it from childcare to any kind of care for elders or folks with limited abilities or family care support that might be needed. So we were able to accommodate that. So who is eligible to do this? Community partners must be a 501c3 nonprofit, LLC, or have a 501c3 fiscal sponsor. They also must work within Philadelphia and with Philadelphia residents. You've got to be able to complete the program activities in the time period that we said in these previous slides. And they have to be able to send 2 staff or community leaders to that Citizens Planning Institute class. Groups cannot be 501c4 organizations, so political groups or lobbying organizations, or an individual. They also cannot have a contract with the city to complete any of this engagement already. So if they are already doing work, engaging their community, you just can't double dip and say, I'm collecting a grant for both of these things at once, even if it's the same activity. So who would make a strong applicant? We're really looking for groups that have deep roots within their communities, strong relationships between their community and the organization or the group. And when I say organization, this doesn't have to be a staffed organization. It can be volunteer run. They just have to have those deep connections. They also need to demonstrate creativity, adaptability, and responsiveness shown in the ways they work with their communities. We want to see people experienced conducting community engagement or who have demonstrated an interest in learning how to conduct engagement. So this could be shown by demonstrating that you have read through some of these guides, the facilitator guide for the storytelling, that you have read through the engagement resource that we have shared, and you are processing and you are thinking about this and you're demonstrating that you're interested in learning more. We want to see demonstrated responsiveness to the needs of the community and how they have changed or would like to change to meet those needs. So we need to see some updated ideas. You know, if your community has changed a lot over the last 5 years, we want to see that you are at least aware that that change has happened and you have ideas of how to meet people where they're at if you have had a change in your community. We also will have strong applicants who are groups that are led by, made up of, or work with our equity audiences for this plan. So that includes working with being or having your group be led by people of racial or ethnic minorities, foreign-born or immigrant communities, people with limited English proficiency, low-income households, LGBTQ plus individuals, people with disabilities, people impacted by the criminal justice system, people who are or have experienced homelessness or housing insecurity, youth or caregivers for youth, elders or caregivers for elders. So how to apply and how the selection process will go. Applications are due Friday, May 30th at 11:59 p.m. So get it in right there before it hits May 31st. The applications will be reviewed by a screening and selection committee made up of steering committee members, as well as city staff with expertise conducting engagement and other grant makers. In July, top applicants will be selected, and we will ask them to host planning commission staff on their sites for an interview, or at a site in their community if they don't have a physical location of their own. At this point, we will also be notifying all other applicants that they have not moved forward in the process. In August, we will be announcing our community partners. To apply, you can find the application on the City Funds website, the Philadelphia City Funds website, and we will be sure to send out that application if you don't already have it to all folks who registered for this webinar. So at this point, we will take questions from the audience. As you remember from the beginning, we are using the Q&A function. So if you go to the bottom of your screen, you should see a little box with like a little voice thing and a question mark that says Q&A. If you click on that, you can enter a question and then also use the little thumbs up underneath other people's questions to indicate that you also have that question. And we will make sure to prioritize questions that have a lot of upvotes. So I will start answering some of these questions. I'm seeing one first from Nicole Healy. If our RCO does not represent an equity-based audience, should we still apply? So we will be reviewing applications from everybody who applies. As I said earlier, what will make a strong application is showing all of those characteristics. If you are able to demonstrate how you will engage any of those equity audiences, that does increase the number of points you will get in the application, or if you are already doing work with those groups. But you do not have to, if you are not working with any of those groups or you are not made up of any of those identities or experiences or groups, we will still be reviewing your application, and that is just one way that we are scoring points. If you can demonstrate the rest of those, then you still have a strong application. The funding that will be awarded, is that only to fund the activities related to the Phialdelphia2050 community engagement? Or is it also to compensate the selected organizations for its time and effort? We do not have funding restrictions of how the funding should be used. We expect that it also takes effort for our community partners themselves to do this, and that we would expect that you would compensate yourself for those activities through administrative fees or paying for your members to be a part of doing this work. Are participatory applications accepted, 2 or more organizations? So I'm assuming that this means that it is a group working together, or multiple groups working together in collaboration. We will be accepting applications, and in fact, we encourage groups to work together in coalition to apply as a community partner. That said, we also want to flag that each community partner will receive that $15,000 or the $30,000, depending on the length of the partnership. So if there are multiple organizations, just make sure you have a clear understanding of how that funding will be divided amongst the organizations. If there will only be 8 organizations, each one will need to represent a large area, not just one neighborhood. How will this be addressed? So we do not actually expect that the organizations will be representing a large area. We expect them to represent the community that they are already made up of, or that they are already serving. The reason why we could never ask for our community partners to represent the entire city. It would just be impossible. And even if we were to choose 500 organizations, I still don't think that we would get a true partnership with every Philadelphian and make a connection with every Philadelphian who is interested and wants to be a part of this plan. That's why the community partnership is parallel and supportive of the work that we are already doing and that the Planning Commission will be leading itself. So the Planning Commission will really look at our community partners and identify the areas where our community partners are not, and focus on those areas more specifically for our engagement, whereas our community partners will really be leading the way with the communities that they are already a part of. So if the community partner only does the 9 months of engagement, will the planning department complete phases 2 and 3? So the planning commission will already be doing engagement throughout these phases. And if a community organization is selected who only is partnering for 9 months, the planning commission will take over in those areas to do the more in-depth engagement. Like I mentioned earlier, it might not look exactly the same as if the organization had continued for the full 18 months, but the planning commission will, pick up and make sure that that area is also covered in our engagement. I also want to add there, I think I said it earlier, but I'm not sure if I did. 9-month partners will be given the opportunity at about February of 2026 if they would like to continue to become 18-month partners. And as long as they're in good standing, they will be given the opportunity to extend their partnership. If they were not sure if they would be able to commit to the full 18 months before, this will be an opportunity for them to reassess and decide whether it would be something they would like to continue with. So if my community is not one of the 8 partners selected for this process, then how will my community's needs be provided for in the Phialdelphia2050 plan? I think this is a similar question to what I answered earlier. If your organization is not selected as a community partner, there will be many ways for community groups to partner in a less formal way with engagement for this plan. So the Planning Commission is still looking to work with community groups in many ways. The partnership, this formal partnership is only one of those ways, but we will make sure to work across the city with other groups to do the engagement, and we will be doing engagement across the city. There will be surveys that are out for everybody to fill out. We'll have focus groups, we'll have tabling opportunities. So just because you're not selected does not mean that we won't work with you, and we certainly will still be very interested in engaging your community and making sure you're represented. So I'm not quite sure if I'm going to get this answer right. I think there might be a little typo in the question, but I think the question is there a minimum number of people that each engagement or event needs to engage? There is not a minimum number, or there's not an expectation of this is how many people you need to engage. What we do expect is that community partners make a concerted effort, given their capacity and the funding that this partnership allows, to make sure that their community is engaged at each of the stages that they partner for. So we really want to see that groups are doing their best to make sure that their community is engaged, and we want to make sure that that is seen in the application, and that's what will lead to a strong application. How large should our audience be in order to be a strong candidate? How many people in our network? So we do not need to see, a really large network in order for you to be considered a strong candidate for this. What we need to see is depth, and then really representing all of those things that we said before. That said, if you only work with 2 people and that's who you consider your community, we're probably going to look for a little bit more than that. But we really just want to see that you are trusted, that people come to you, that when people are looking for advice on how things are done, you know, that you are a trusted messenger of information and that they are willing to tell you honestly what they are thinking and feeling. And that's what we want to see represented. So can an RCO that has a NAC contract still be considered for an application? Yes, as long as the activities that you will do as part of this engagement do not overlap with the contract you have to be a NAC. So you can't double dip on funds. And you can't have, you know, one engagement event as a NAC also count as an engagement event for this. But you are still eligible as long as you make sure that it's very clear that you are not doing the same activities for that contract and for this partnership. So in regards to having representation in multiple areas of the city, if you have strong applicants that serve the same area of the city, will that factor into your selection process? I think in terms of this question, we haven't determined an exact answer, but I think what I would like to see is that they're using different engagement methods, and that they maybe have, even though they're serving the same area of the city, that they don't have exactly overlapping community groups. And that's what we would consider. But we'll have to think about that a little bit harder, and I hope to get back to you with a more in-depth answer there. So another question, to confirm my understanding, community in this context is not necessarily defined as a geographic community, such as a neighborhood, but rather communities of specific categories of residents as you defined. There will be additional engagement for specific neighborhoods. We'll have the ability to give input. Do I have that correct? So we understand community broadly. Community could be place-based. So a group could apply as, you know, Germantown Community Organization, or, you know, whatever neighborhood organization, larger geographies, if that's who you serve or you're a part of. Or community groups could apply as, you know, we are a group of youth-led, climate interested young folks, and we want to apply to be a community partner as well. So either of those types can be considered. It could also be a combination. It could be, you know, identity focused within a geography or something else like that. But either type of community, whether it's geographic, place-based, or more identity or experience-based, can apply to be a community partner. To the other half of your question, will there be additional engagements for specific neighborhoods? We will be hosting workshops and community meetings in each planning district. So the city is divided into 18 separate planning districts, and we will be hosting a meeting in those ways in each of those districts. So we'll also be sure to be getting a geographic spread. And as I said earlier, we'll also be looking at where, you know, we don't have community partners, or where there are areas where we have gaps in our engagement, and make sure to engage folks in those neighborhoods and with those identities as well.
So Marissa, an easy kind of logistical one. Does the fiscal sponsor have to be Philadelphia based?
I do not believe that they have to be Philadelphia based as long as the organization is. But I'm going to get the exact details from the city, the Philadelphia City Fund, who is going to be distributing our grants, and make sure that that is in alignment with their understanding as well. I am currently pulling up our application to confirm for the question that is specifically about the funding amounts for reimbursement. I just want to make sure that I said it correctly. So that is reimbursement for the 9-month partnership is $2,500 for translation or interpretation, and up to $2,500 in addition for family care. And so double that for the 18-month partnership, that's $5,000 for translation or interpretation. And in addition, $5,000 for family care services.
I think I could answer this one. For applicants who are ultimately not selected, what is the feedback mechanism you envision? How robust might this feedback be? Why I ask, constructive feedback from the pros to inform an org's next step would be so helpful for the other org. So you can email us at any point at Phila2050@phila.gov. We are checking that email constantly. So if you have feedback to share, you can do that there. I think you might be saying like if we have suggestions and kind of be able to consult another organization. At some point we will be making that community partner list public. So you may also, reach out through their Instagram or something and give them information that way if you want to connect directly. But I would say that in the spirit of this opportunity, it's really about collaboration. So if you have thoughts and you send that to our email, we can make sure that everybody, that is distributed among the selected community partners.
Thank you, Veronica. So will CPI be providing materials to give out to our community members? The Planning Commission will have materials and will support our community partners in developing their own materials to get the word out to their communities. We will also have public materials that anybody can use and will be able to access on a special engagement website to help you get the word out to your communities. So for example, right now we have a flyer that if you would like, you could email us at that Phila2050@phila.gov, and it has some information about this community partner opportunity and how to recommend a partner. And we would be more than happy to provide you with that flyer so that you could flyer within your own communities. Similarly, we'll also have the surveys that are public, and we would really encourage you to share those surveys within your communities and any other engagement resources that we develop. If our organization currently works with some center city offices, are we still able to apply if we conduct separate engagement events? I'm not 100% sure. I understand this question. So if you'd like to add some clarifying question, I'd appreciate that. But I'm going to assume that this means that if you are already in an office that's doing engagement events and you also do engagement events, you can conduct those separately as community partners. Yeah, but again, and as Veronica said, collaboration is great. And we would love if our community partners work together or if groups applied as coalitions to be community partners as well. So I think that the rest of the questions that we have in large part already answered. Veronica or Donna, do you see any additional questions that you think we should make sure to answer?
I see one from Benita. What happens if no one applies from a community? So currently we have over 700 views on the application. So it's highly unlikely that we won't see, no applications. But like I mentioned in phase 2, we're going to be sort of looking at like what are the gaps that exist in our phase 1 engagement. So we're going to be attentive to that and perhaps then do a focus group with us, selected organization or another community so that we make sure that those gaps are filled. So this is a bit dynamic, right? Like we're gonna have to make some calls as we go and see what information we get. But our hope is, as I mentioned earlier, to have multiple formats, multiple avenues, and different just ways that people can connect to provide input.
Thank you, Veronica. And this last question that just came in, with 18 districts, can we imagine that the Planning Commission will do its best to distribute the community partners across as many of the 18 as possible? So as I mentioned earlier, we are looking for strength of relationships, but we are not looking for large geographies to be covered or a great distribution of the city to be covered by these partners necessarily. Again, we could have 500 partners and we still wouldn't cover the whole city. This is why we're doing both the community partner-led engagement and the Planning Commission-led engagement. So we are trusting and working with our community partners to do in-depth engagement within their areas that they serve. We'll be selecting groups that have deep levels of experience and knowledge and trust within their communities, who represent, we'll be looking preferentially for groups that represent demographics and experiences and identities that often do not get heard at the same depth in planning processes. And we'll be looking for all of that ingenuity, ideas that we would like to see, of creativity, of how they're engaging and how they're updating, how they're working with their communities. So that said, we're not going to be looking for 1 per 18 districts or 1 spread across the whole city, or, a geographic distribution, because we are looking for the depth within those specific areas, whereas the Planning Commission is going to cover everywhere that the community partners are not, to the best of our ability. Where can you find details about the folklore project? Thank you so much for this question. We have posted the folklore project's story sharing guide on the Citizen Planning Institute's website. They also have their own website. So if you'd like to know more about what they do generally, we'll make sure to include both the guide, a link to the guide, and a link to the folklore project itself in our follow-up email to all registrants for this meeting. Thank you. That is all the questions I'm seeing. I'll give it a couple more minutes just in case someone's typing. And then we'll go ahead and conclude the call if there are no more questions. It looks like we don't have any more questions, so we'll end on time. Oh, is there a list of past partners? So this is something new for the Planning Commission. This is the first time we are using this community partner model for the plan. So we do not have a past list of partners, but we're excited to have our first list so that the next time you ask that question, we can provide you with a past list.
Thank you, Marissa, and thank you to everybody still on the line. We appreciate your interest in this application and hope that you check out any of the materials that Marissa mentioned that will be sent to you following this webinar. Anything else we should mention to folks?
I think that's it. Feel free to share the recording with folks after we send it out to you all. We would really love for groups to apply. And yes, please email us if you have any further questions. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night.